Toronto police have arrested and now charged a 66-year-old man with first-degree murder in connection to a pair of missing persons cases. The two victims disappeared last year near the city's gay village and are presumed dead. Investigators believe there could be other victims as well.
Definition for serial killer. I'm telling you, he's killed at least 2 people that we know of, and we believe there are more victims. So whether you want to attach that label or not is up to you.
The victims are 44-year-old Salim Essen and 49-year-old Andrew Kinsman. Police say the bodies of the victims have never been found, but they have a good idea of what the cause of death would be in the cases. Police say they have arrested and charged a man named Bruce MacArthur and are searching 5 properties connected to him. Let's bring in Dave Perry, homicide investigator with the Toronto Police for 28 years, now CEO of the Investigative Solutions Network. Thanks for coming in today.
My pleasure.
Fair to use the term serial killer if these charges are proven in court?
I think it's fair to use that definition right now. He's been charged with first-degree murder and 2 what would be separate homicides, and the investigators themselves are saying that he's likely responsible for other murders. And if that's true, then he's a serial killer.
Dave, how often do we see a situation where you have so many victims because they're looking at a possible connection to 3 other victims and 1 person that could face charges in all cases?
Fortunately, it's very rare in Canada and even in North America to see serial killers. In Canada, actually about 1% of our total homicides every year, we find that there's a series of events and therefore a serial killer operating. Some researchers will tell you that there's about 5 serial killers operating in Canada on sort of a year-to-year basis. So it's very, very rare, and it's very fortunate these kind of people, are a very small segment of the people that walk this planet.
What is the difficulty for an investigator when there is no body for them to look at to determine not only cause of death, but other sort of circumstantial or other evidence as well?
Yes, this case, I'm sure, challenged the police on multiple levels. And not having a body to charge somebody, it does complicate it. It doesn't mean it can't be done, and it can't be done successfully. We've seen that in the past. But when you have 5 people who all disappeared from the same demographic area, it happens to be that they're from the gay community. And when you look at even the methodology and the victimology of all of them, I mean, all of us that have been in this business for any length of time, we're all starting to wonder and worry that there was a serial killer operating out there quite some time ago.
Because why? Because of the geographic connection or more than that?
Well, it's the entire pattern of the behavior, and we look at things in clusters. And when you have 5 men who, basically fit a very similar description from what I understand, and they all happen to come from the gay community in a very small area, sometimes attending the same bars and restaurants and things like that. And then you also look at the fact that they just vanished. And in most homicides, people don't just vanish. We see homicides way too often in the media, and the people have found the body and quickly were on to the investigation. But in this one, the discovery of bodies is still going to be a significant part of the case. And I get very worried when I hear about people missing all of those similarities in all a very short period of time, and then there's no bodies to be discovered.
Yeah.
That's very, very concerning.
It's the absence of bodies that makes you wonder if something else is going on.
The absence of bodies and the fact that they just vanished. There's nobody there who can actually say that they've had communication. Their cell phones are not being used. They've dropped off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
Some people that we see that have those patterns, we would expect that. And in our homeless community, sometimes we see that and they go missing for a long period of time, but we eventually locate them. But to have people suddenly being plucked out of a small little area over a period of time with very similar descriptions, which tells me a lot about a serial killer. They tend to be preferential sometimes, and when they're targeting a certain community and a certain victimology in terms of the way somebody looks and their age, sometimes their race, and so on. When you start looking at all of these patterns, you start to get very concerned.
In this particular case, we understood that police had this suspect sort of under observation, or at least on the radar some way, but were looking for enough of a connection to arrest him and place charges with at least these 2 victims. What could that link be? What is the link that is enough to make an arrest? I mean, obviously we don't know what it is here, but what could it be in these kinds of cases?
Well, we could speculate all night about that, and I'm happy to do that at times, but really what draws the police to the point where they make an arrest and they lay charges like this, two very serious charges of first-degree murder, is evidence. So whether or not they had him on their radar for a long period of time or a short period of time, they got what we call that quick break or that big significant break where they got evidence, whether that was forensically through DNA or some other method that connected him to these two missing people. And they've got also appear to have evidence to show that perhaps these two people are obviously not alive anymore, so hence the first-degree murder charges.
They haven't said what cause of death is. Obviously, we don't have remains here to determine that, but it sounds like they know what the cause of death is. How is that possible? What are we missing here?
Well, there's a crime scene. There's evidence somewhere to show that the mechanism of death was a certain way. So whether that person was stabbed or some other method of committing the homicide, the police
So there
obviously
could be
have
DNA
evidence
of the victim
There
somewhere.
could be DNA. There could be evidence of just about any kind of a homicide. But they are now searching, I understand, 5 of his properties. And, killers tend to do things in certain patterns. Serial killers do certain things in certain patterns. And I'm sure that these 5 locations that they're searching will likely result in some kind of, additional evidence. And they're really just at the beginning stage of that. This could take a very long time, but it's a very tragic case. But it's also one that I think the police deserve some credit. They've obviously done a very good job. I've heard they've got great assistance from the community. I hear there's been some links through a dating app and so on. So clearly they've been pouring through just about every avenue of evidence that they possibly could, and they've come to the conclusion that this is the person responsible. And the detective sergeant in charge of the case came right out and said they're looking at him for more murders. So we'll have to stay tuned.
All right, and just a reminder that, of course, they are charges that have to be proven in court at this point. 2 charges of first-degree murder for that 66-year-old suspect, Bruce McArthur. Dave Perry, sir, thanks for coming in.
It's always a pleasure.
Appreciate it.